Galway, happy to be here. I want to talk today about entrepreneurial spirit. So forget for the moment the word innovation, and let's just talk about sort of what I mean by entrepreneurial spirit. So as we all well know, the world has completely transformed and it continues to change. The world today is so different than it was even 5 years ago. And in 5 years' time, it's going to be way different again. So inside of the large enterprise, everything has become digitized. The factory floor, manufacturing, the way we interact with customers, Salesforce automation and marketing automation, customer service, or even the way you're routed when you call up customer service is all digitized. Of course, we've had voice over IP. It's all digital. Everything except for our people and the processes that we use to manage people, those are still, decades old. Those are actually still part of the industrial age. So we've got our companies that are all now digital, and our people and our processes that are analog. The second thing is that part of this changing landscape is how competitive the world is. We all know about startups. We hear startups all the time. And of course, they are disrupting major industries. It's often not disrupting, though. They're actually doing non-innovative stuff as well, right? So there's probably 1,000 iPhone apps for every one startup that's actually truly being disruptive. But competition from the startup world can come from anywhere. There's also the globalization of the world. So even if you're a big company operating normally in Europe, the US market is now open to you, and markets in Asia and India, and of course vice versa. So that means that these companies can actually leapfrog all of this time that it used to take to go international. Now suddenly it's so much easier and faster, so that we can get competition globally from anywhere. So startups, globalization. It's also scary what these rather recent companies who are no longer startups can do. Do we really know what Amazon's going to do next? Right? When Jeff Bezos started selling books online, a website that sold books, who knew that he would be trying to use drones to deliver products to people's houses? Who knew that over the holidays I had Amazon vans delivering product on a Sunday, right? So completely disrupting transportation, completely disrupting not only the selling of books, but the publishing of books. What's Google going to do next? Yeah, with search engine, AdWords, email, documents. What else? Self-driving cars? Can we predict what Google's going to do next or what Apple's going to do next? We have Uber for cars, we know. We have Uber for helicopters. Have Uber for food. What is Uber going to do next? How about Uber for life insurance? So competition, again, it can come from these big companies. So it's not just startups. So that's another big changing aspect of the world that we live in. And then I think about our customers. Our customers tend to be more agile than we are inside our businesses. So the amount of information that they have on us is staggering compared to just a few years ago. They can read reviews on us. They know what we do well. They know where our warts are. If you're the CEO of a clothing manufacturer and you say, ugly people should not wear my clothes, and you actually say that publicly, and the stock price plummets, as it should. Right? So as businesses, we're not even in control of our own brand. There's no such thing as, here's my brand, and I project it to you. Love it or leave it. Brand is now the relationship that we have with our customer. It's two-way. It's coming at us as much as we're projecting it. Our customers can choose between vendors easier than ever. So that this concept of loyalty is almost nostalgic, right? You can still breed loyalty, but it's not because You don't use Tide today because your mom used it anymore. You use Tide today because it actually works better. Or maybe it makes you feel good. I don't know. But this concept of brand loyalty has changed. And customers switch from one vendor to another, even in difficult IT back-end infrastructure. Tyson Atticus, this chief information officer of Intuit, talks about how he's completely re-architecting the IT infrastructure so that once Salesforce is no longer the most popular CRM, they'll just be able to push Salesforce out and move in a different CRM vendor. I mean, that's actually pretty heady stuff. That's pretty crazy. It used to be that if you sold into IT, you were locked in there for decades. That was the way you had recurring revenue, and you could look at your annual recurring revenue, and you knew your growth was going to come from new customers. Now it's more transactional. Now you know that I have to work to keep that customer because they can switch from one vendor to another. So if you buy into all of this transformation, and yet our organizations are still run the old way, the people and the processes are still stuck in analog mode, we're in trouble. This is the life expectancy of S&P countries, which is a metric of 500 of the top organizations in the U.S. is the average lifespan used to be 58, 60 years, 20 years ago. It's down to like 18 years. So the trajectory for the lifespan of large enterprises, it's on the way down. And so how do we respond to this? Well, so we have to be more innovative, right? So let's talk about the word innovation. What does it mean? I don't know. We've got R&D centers that are creating new patents. So new technology, we can go get patents, and we count how many patents we have, right? It's the ultimate vanity metric. It doesn't measure innovation, though. It measures invention. It's not innovation until we can take an invention and bring it to market. So we've got, as our enterprise strategy, yes, we've got an R&D center. So now we also want to open up accelerator programs, because that's hip in the startup world, so therefore we must do it. And so we set aside a new space, and we fire up 4 or 5 accelerator teams, and those are the teams that are going to go and innovate and save our business. So, man, if you look in the startup world, the likelihood of a startup to succeed, even if it's in an accelerator program, is infinitesimally small. It's like 1 in 1,000 companies or something crazy. Yet the enterprise is going to go handpick 20, 25 people, put them in an accelerator program, and they're going to solve all of our future problems. They're going to solve the fact that we can see our existing markets ticking down year over year. Or innovation is, it's like innovation theater from marketing, right? So the car commercials in the US, there's a car racing down the street, and there's like thousands of pieces of paper flying off the car, and each one of the pieces of paper represents innovation. So, wow, they figured out how to put the 13th cup holder inside the vehicle. And wow, I mean, that's like mind-boggling innovation. So what do we mean? So in my view, innovation is it's as simple as something new that creates new value. And I'll buy into the buzzword if we can use that simple explanation. We're not talking about disruptive innovation. We're not talking about sustaining innovation and incremental innovation, breakthrough innovation. It's simply, can we actually create something new that creates new value for humans? And the nice thing about that definition is, if everybody were concentrating on creating new value for human beings, we actually lower the price, we lower the cost of new value from the end user's perspective. From the consumer's perspective, I actually can now afford to purchase value. That's how you raise the standard of living. So instead of focusing on can we create wealth, we focus on can we create new value, which results in revenue streams, which hopefully results in wealth. But it's where we focus our energy. And so in our view, my company and my books, it's really about how do we go and discover and create new wealth? So back in the 90s, the dot-com boom and bust, we used to teach startups how to act like big businesses. And so we would assemble startups, very much like, it looked like Henry Ford's assembly line. You would create cells, marketing, operations, product management, engineering, legal, HR, finance. They all had their own cells along the assembly line. And if you wanted to create products, you would first figure out a market that exists, and then you would move it along the conveyor so it touched all of those departments, so the product was ready to go out and be marketed and be sold and be distributed, delivered, customer service, all inside these silos. What happens is these cells, as they grow, come up with rules of engagement. So the managers of the cells now establish what are the rules of engagement. This is how the cells are allowed to communicate with each other. And they grow bigger, the rules of engagement become more complicated. This maybe worked when you had one or two simple products that a repeatable process allowed you to go from one end to the other. But when you want to try to create new value, you can't use that method. By the time you go up and down the hierarchy of now these entrenched silos and across the organization, across all these cells, it takes too long to do anything. You start on one end with your idea, and it goes up and down the silos across the organization in order to get produced and brought out to the market. Maybe if you're lucky, it's 1 year. And in today's world, the conditions that you are now launching in are dramatically different than the conditions when you first started producing your product. So these old methods, this up and down the silos across the organization, is too slow. Maybe the only part of the organization that has any contact with the customer is the first one that came up with the idea, perhaps based on market research, perhaps based upon empathy. Maybe they've learned about their customers. But all of these other silos never touch the customer. They know nothing about the customer's needs, desires. They don't know who they're delivering for. The engineers don't know who the customer is that they're building product for. Marketing barely understands, other than their traditional market research and classifying customers based upon demographics, do they know how to market? And the same thing with sales and customer service. So the entrepreneurial spirit I'm talking about is not doing it that way. It's understanding our customers deeply. It's moving fast and with agility so that we can take new information in from the market and apply it to our processes going forward. It's building cross-functional teams and going out and understanding the problems and then solving for those problems based upon collaboration among people that are not like-minded, that are diverse. And so we use evidence to make decision-making. It's not the pet project of the highest paid person in the room. It's not what we believe up here between our ears because we have conviction about our ideas and we're paid for that conviction. No, we're going to go out into the marketplace and we're going to test these ideas and we're going to make decisions based upon the evidence that we glean from the market, insights that we glean from the market. And so there's sort of the 3 E's of lean innovation. Empathy, understanding our customers deeply. Experiments, purpose-built experiments, so that we can validate or invalidate the riskiest assumptions that we have about our idea. And the 3rd E is evidence. Using data from the experiments plus insights that we glean in order to make decisions on where to focus and how to move forward. So there's an example of empathy that I like to bring in. There's a pharmaceutical that interviews their customers, and the question they ask is, what's your experience like taking the top off of your pill bottles? Do you have trouble getting the tops off your pill bottles because they've got all that child-proof stuff on it, right? And they're interviewing these elderly people. This elderly woman says, no, I have no problem. They say, show me. So she brings them over to a meat slicer that she had bought in order to take the top off her pill. And I normally have a picture of these fragile old woman's hands operating a meat slicer to take the pill off her. See, I have no problems getting the top off my pill bottles. So you don't get that information from interviews, from surveys, from focus groups. You have to actually be there. And you actually have to see how your customer is acting in their environment. And this is true for business to business as it is with consumers. We have a client that sold hardware, sensors, and software for measuring or monitoring whether molds were closed properly on the manufacturing floor. They interviewed their customers who didn't like their platform very much, and the customers said, yes, we install it properly. Yeah, of course, it's just that your software sucks. After a few months of this, finally, our client goes out onto the factory floor, and 9 out of 10 were not installing the system properly. So yes, the customers were still right. The system sucked because it was hard to install, right? So they revamped their whole software, and big lights. Red, yellow, green. Green is when it's installed properly. And the customers are like, okay, cool, we're ready, we'll buy that. Oh, no, we gotta add in all these other features that we have to our specification. It's not due for another 4 months. We have a bunch of more, no, give it to us now. You're solving a huge problem, we want it now. You can add all of that stuff later. We need it now because you've solved this big problem. So experiments. What do we mean by experiments? These are live behavioral experiments. We're not going and asking our customers what they want and then doing what they say. Customers are horrible at predicting their own future, right? So the way we interact with our customers is hugely important. We can't just ask them what they want. We can't ask them, hey, do you like my idea? What do you think of these features? How much would you be willing to pay? They get that wrong all the time. You can't believe that. So what we want is people to run purpose-built experiments that measure the behavior of the customers. So there's a famous landing page experiment, right? You put up a one-page website, has got all of your value proposition on there, big old button that's like a call to action, and you get to drive the right traffic there that represents your market segment. Does anybody care? Does anybody care about your idea? So there's a number of startups that have launched Buffer, another one called PHP Fog, and they launched based upon this landing page results. There's a few successes. The Graveyard is like extraordinary, right? I mean, there's literally millions of one-page websites that are still in operation representing ideas that nobody wanted. I know, I've contributed several myself. So this is just one sort of example. We're not going and asking those customers. We're trying to get them to respond to a call to action based upon that value prop. I'm wondering if anybody's tracking my time at all. And 5 minutes? Okay. So, interrupted my own train of thought there. So then the evidence comes down to when you're starting, and if you're a startup, this applies as well as if you're a large business and you're trying to figure out if a new product will work. You have to start small to go big. And so the evidence that you're looking for early on is around how many customers you're engaging with, how many customers are you running these experiments on, what are the results of those experiments. And then you get to the point where you're going, okay, now I'm going to try to provide the value that I'm promising. And it's another type of experiment. So there's one called the Mechanical Turk. People know what a Mechanical Turk is? So Mechanical Turk was a chess playing machine that would tour Europe in the 1700s and play chess versus royalty. And the royalty would get all pissed off because they would lose to this machine that was like unheard of. And it turns out that there was a little person inside the machine that was actually playing chess, and that's called a Mechanical Turk. So as you're building, you're running all of these experiments, at some point you need to increase the fidelity of your experiment, so you might build a Mechanical Turk experiment, and that's where the customer thinks that they're interacting with the product, but actually behind the scenes, you're actually fulfilling the value that you promised without building a bunch of technology. So Zappos, the shoe company that buys shoes online, you have Zappos here? Yeah. So when they first started, it was still pretty expensive to build a e-commerce website. So they built a pretty simple site. They didn't go source shoes. The founder literally walked down the street, went into a shoe store, took pictures of the shoes, went back to his office, uploaded the shoes to the website. Somebody would click, yep, buy a pair of shoes. He'd walk back down to the shoe store, buy the shoes, ship them to the customer. Validating that people would be willing to buy shoes online. There was an entrepreneur in Southern California that did the same thing with cars. Like launched the site on Friday. Monday he calls up his developer, goes, how are we doing? He's all like, it's amazing. 3 or 4 people have bought cars online. And he's all like, shut the website down. I lose thousands of dollars per vehicle bought, right? So it's just to learn, right? It's to take uncertainty, run experiments, and once you figured it out, you put it in the known bucket. Now it's time to execute. So he doesn't need that experiment anymore. Now he needs to build out his website and figure out how he's actually going to source those cars or those shoes. So the idea around this is where do we face uncertainty? What is unknown? If you try to execute, if you're using your optimized engine for execution, if you execute in the unknown, you're taking one shot at it. So what we want to do is search first, find what works. And it's not only the product, it's all across the business model. So I have a framework that allows you to create hypotheses from a customer being aware all the way to when they become passionate, because passionate customers put new prospects into the top of your funnel without you spending any money on marketing. And so what do I need to build? What's my customer behavior? What am I going to measure? Everything inside the organization could be hypothesis driven. If we do X, if we build X, Y percentage of our customers will behave in way Z. We measure Z. We put a stake in the ground. 33% of our customers will upload and share a video 3 times a week. By putting a stake in the ground, we make our data actionable. For one, we're not drowning in tons of data. We don't need to hire a BI team in order to solve that. We know what's the metric that we have to monitor, which is customer behavior with the product. We put a stake in the ground that a satisfied customer is one that uploads a file and a video and shares it with 10 friends 3 times a week. If you don't achieve the metric, there's only a few things that could be wrong. It could be the metric. They're sharing it only 2 times a week. That's good enough for now. We can optimize later. Or it's the wrong market segment. Wow, they never could get them to upload a video. Or there's something wrong with the product. Sharing doesn't work very well. So it takes that data, makes it actionable, and then you're iterating on the product or the customer segment until you get to the metric that you want. Now you can move to the next stage in the funnel of getting customers to passionate, for example. So empathy, understanding our customers deeply, purpose-built experiments, and then evidence that allows us to direct where we should focus and what's the next step that we should take. And we can apply this, frankly, we can apply this anywhere in our life where there's uncertainty. Every one of us, from being at home to leading, Fortune 500 companies, global 500 companies, we all have customers. We all have customers. When we're trying to make our customers passionate, we all have uncertainty. And so we can apply those 3 E's to figure out what's the best way to make our customer go from being aware of you, the solution, to becoming passionate about it because it goes above and beyond the duty, or because you're sharing this journey towards this aspirational impact you might have in your life. And so in my view, your real competitive advantage in the world, it's not your IP strategy, it's what are the insights I can glean from my customers, and how quickly can I act on those insights? That's your competitive advantage. The relationship that you form with your customers based upon you solving problems from these insights. That's how you're going to win in the market. So thank you very much. Questions? Anybody have any questions, experiences from their own businesses in their own life? How this might be applied? What do you think? No questions. No, seriously, anybody?
Just on the experimentation side of things.
Yeah.
What's the best example you've seen of that and best outcome of how that experiment was, the results of that experiment was harnessed?
Well, so in terms of like the simplicity, actually your next speaker, Mark Bowles, has got a great example of a hardware experiment in the retail space. What's amazing is most entrepreneurs, most people go, doesn't work in my business model. That's great for consumers. Doesn't work in my business. It actually works anywhere, because if you just have to look at it in terms of uncertainty. My favorite story is a landing page one, because it was so simple. It's a one-page website, and it resulted in raising $10 million and then exiting for 5x, 10x that a few years later. So from talking about from rags to riches, that's like landing page to exit, life-changing amount of money. And so what he did was, this was the Heroku, well, actually it was PHP Fog. So Heroku is cloud services for people that program in Ruby on Rails. And PHP Fog was cloud services for people that developed in PHP. And Heroku already existed and was very popular and growing. And there was this community on Hacker News that was saying, yeah, we really need that for PHP too. And so this guy, Lucas Carlson, goes, okay, I'm gonna build that product. I'm gonna build Heroku for PHP users. And it was like late one Friday night, his wife's all like, it's late, come to bed. You could work on this over the weekend. So he builds the one-page website, takes that URL, posts it in the Hacker News thread, wakes up the next morning, there's 800 people are signed up. And he's like, holy crap, I'm onto something. So he starts coding. He's coding, week goes by, 2 weeks go by, coding, 3 weeks go by. 4 weeks go by, he's got 4,000 people signed up. 4,000 people signed up for a product that doesn't exist. And he's like, dang, what's gonna happen to my customers? What's gonna happen? They're gonna go compete with me, or they're gonna be all ticked off, they're gonna leave PHP and go program in Ruby on Rails. So he comes up with a second experiment that I call a high hurdle experiment. The high hurdle experiment is, in order for people to get access to my beta program, I'm gonna make them jump through hoops. So he comes up with a marketing survey. This is not marketing best practices. This is crazy stuff. This is not 9 questions with, radio boxes and I can finish this in about 9 seconds. It's 9 pages of survey, open-ended questions, what are you trying to accomplish, and what's your biggest problem, and what's the meaning of life, and why are you here, and what's your favorite color, and what's your second favorite color? Anything to get somebody not to fill out that survey. Only the people with the highest pain will fill out this survey. 2,000 people filled out that survey. And from that, he did data mining, and he's like, I gotta get something out there. And he built 3 features that were in those responses. So he scrapped the big, huge, robust platform he was building, 3 features, back end for just those 3 features, launched it, rocket ship, raised $10 million. A few years later, exits for 5-6 times that. So that's my rags to riches story.
That's awesome. Brant, thank you so much for coming and spending time in London a month ago, and then last week, and then here. And I think this is going to be a regular stop for you, I think, not least with your interest in rugby as a former player too.
Next time through, I'd definitely take some more time so I can.
Yeah, let's take some more time and get some full-on workshops going, which would be great. Yep. So good. Thanks to Brant.
Yep.